Mahabharata, Chapter 18 The Wax Palace. It is never the prosperity of someone that ticks us off. It is the comparison of the prosperity of someone to our own, the relative prosperity, that rubs us the wrong way. It gets worse when the person is someone we know well. In other words, it is human nature to compare ourselves with those in our own percentile. For example, we don't begin our day thinking we are gifted and fortunate in comparison with some starving children in Kenya. We don't indulge in this comparison because we are not in the same percentile as those African children. Instead, it is in human nature to compare ourselves with our neighbors, our classmates, our colleagues, friends, etc., and feel jealous. This premise was the basis of Duryodhana's misery. With all his wealth, power, and abundance, he was jealous of the Pandavas. The factors were Yudhishthira's virtuous conduct, Bhima's strength, Arjuna's skill, Nakula and Sahadeva's wisdom. All of these irritated him. The worst was the people's love for the five brothers. The people of Hastinapura voiced their opinions explicitly. They said, Dhritarashtra is blind and not fit to be king. Bhishma cannot become the king owing to his sacred vow. Yudhishthira is both virtuous and full of wisdom. He alone is fit to be king. This gave Duryodhana sleepless nights. He convened a meeting with Uncle Shakuni, Karna, and his immediate brother Dushasana. And Shakuni came up with a plan to get rid of the Pandavas once and for all. They identified a beautiful city called Varanavata. Varana means elephant, Vata means region. Since herds of elephants were sighted in this region, the city got the name Varanavata. The location of Varanavata is found to be somewhere around Haridwar and Rishikesh towns in Uttarakhand. Shakuni's plan was both ingenious and meticulous. First, he solicited several ministers in the kingdom who were loyal to the Kauravas. Then, he asked these ministers to talk highly of the city of Varanavata and its beauty and ensure that these praises were audible to the five Pandava brothers. Over the next few weeks, the Pandavas kept hearing about this marvelous city and the beautiful festivals that it was famous for. The Pandavas became naturally curious. Shakuni's next plan was for someone to suggest to the Pandavas that they visit Varanavata. But whose words would the Pandavas listen to? Bhishma and Kripacharya wouldn't make such a suggestion without asking for reasons. So, he had Duryodhana persuade Dhritarashtra to make this suggestion. Of course, Dhritarashtra was reluctant at first, but at his son's repeated requests, he yielded and brought up the subject one day when everyone was assembled in court. Dear Yudhishthira, Dhritarashtra spoke out, I have heard that the city of Varanavata is very beautiful. At this time of year, it is famous for the festivals that happen there. Why don't you go there with your brothers and well-wishers? It will be a nice vacation for you. As the heir to the throne, you can represent Hastinapura. Your virtuous and good conduct is sure to win their hearts. While Yudhishthira was uncertain as to why Dhritarashtra would make such a suggestion out of the blue, he was obedient of his uncle. He agreed to go to Varanavata with his brothers and their mother, Kunti Devi. Now came Shakuni's master stroke. He summoned the established architect, Purochana, and told him in secret, Purochana, go to Varanavata and build a palace for the Pandavas to stay in. Build this palace with materials that would easily catch fire. Use jute, wax, lac, wood, etc. Use ghee, use oil. Plaster the walls with dry material. Ensure that the sleeping quarters are close to the most combustible of items. Do this fast, do this in secret. Purochana, true to his word, carried out the plot hastily. Shakuni's idea was to set the palace on fire and pretend that the Pandavas died while on vacation, so that no direct blame could be traced back to the Kauravas. In one stroke, he sought to eliminate the threat the Pandavas posed to the Kauravas. Duryodhana was, of course, elated with this idea. Just before the Pandavas left Hastinapura, the wise Vidura addressed Yudhishthira and said something in puzzling and cryptic terms that only Yudhishthira could understand. Wise Yudhishthira, I wish to send you with some parting words of wisdom. He who knows his enemies must be prepared and aware of impending danger. There are weapons in this world far more dangerous and sharp than those made of steel. An entire forest can burn in fire, but the rat that buries itself under a hole escapes without danger. A man may not be well read, but can find his way by looking at the stars. Yudhishthira replied, saying that he has understood the meaning and left Hastinapura after paying respect to Bhishma, Kripa, Drona, and the other elders. On reaching Varanavata, Yudhishthira asked Bhima to check the entire palace, and Bhima confirmed that the place was filled with inflammable material everywhere. Bhima was so angry that he wanted to return to Hastinapura immediately and kill Duryodhana. But Yudhishthira stopped him and said that this was a test placed before them, that they should act wise, escape the danger, and use this as an opportunity to learn the ways of the world before revealing themselves again. A friend of Vidura, an expert miner, showed up in Varanavata one day and introduced himself to Yudhishthira, saying that he was sent to help them build a tunnel out of the palace. The Pandavas spent a long time in Varanavata, seemingly enjoying the festival and the city, but being watchful all the time. With Bhima's assistance, Vidura's friend constructed the tunnel. One day, Purochana decided that the time had come and planned to set fire to the palace that night. The Pandavas noticed that he was acting a little strange and quickly deduced that that night was going to be the night. After everyone went to sleep, before Purochana could do it, Bhima set fire to many places in the palace, and the Pandavas, along with Kunti and Vidura's friend, escaped the wax palace through the tunnel and came out somewhere in the forest. Purochana, taken by surprise, fell victim to his own plan and was burned to death by the fire. The palace burned down. The word spread. The Pandavas were assumed to be dead. The entire kingdom of Hastinapura was in distress. Those who knew the natural animosity between the cousins suspected that this was Duryodhana's plan. But who could prove anything? The royal house was deep in sorrow, and everyone was seen in white clothes. The Kauravas outwardly exhibited great remorse and cried in public display. The only one who was calm and composed was Vidura, for he knew that the Pandavas would have escaped. Seeing Bhishma in so much sorrow, Vidura secretly disclosed to him that the escape of the Pandavas was arranged. Hastinapura was in the dark. Evil had seemingly won. The virtuous and strong Pandavas were out of the way. Duryodhana, Duchasana, Karna, and Shakuni celebrated their victory. Let's pause a moment to reflect on the life and attitude of the Pandavas. As we have seen, the Pandavas were born and raised in the forest. Then their father Pandu died. This was a low point in their life. They came to Hastinapura and lived as princes and learnt warcraft and Vedas from Dronacharya, Kripacharya, and Bhishma. Their eldest brother was crowned the heir to the throne and they enjoyed princely benefits. This was a high point in their life. Now, as a result of Duryodhana's treachery, they were running like fugitives again in the forest. Certainly another low point in their life. Neither good times nor bad times last too long. Pleasure is followed by pain and vice versa. It is up to each of us to receive and take these times in the right spirit. It is not the incidents in life that shape our personality. It is the attitude. In other words, life does not pause when we face adversaries. We still have to get up, brush our teeth, have breakfast, go to work or school, and do all the activities that are part of the routine. By worrying about a problem, we only make these routine activities more difficult than necessary. By performing our tasks with a sense of dharma or duty, we can sail through a rough patch with ease. This sense of dharma or duty is an attitude. However, this attitude cannot be cultivated overnight. It will not suddenly dawn on us when we face a problem. They have to be practiced when we don't have problems for it to come naturally when we are surrounded by problems. To put it in even simpler terms, let us take a common problem like doing badly in an exam or facing an impending loss of job. During this time, the wise thing to do would be to take it in our stride and carry on with our life. Study for the next exam, for example, or look for another job. Continue to eat and exercise. Just live life normally as though nothing happened. It's hard to do this because we neglect to look at these routine activities as a duty when we undergo good times. When we experience good times, we find something else to complain about. We don't enjoy the present moment and respectfully do our everyday duty. How then will the right attitude magically appear during times of distress? Attitudes do not understand where or when we shape them, but once shaped, they become habits. Back to the story. What happened to the Pandavas who escaped into the forest? What were they going to do? Were they going to return to Hastinapura or remain in the forest? The Pandavas go on to gather much experience in a period of incognito. We will see the many exploits of the Pandavas in the next chapter.